College football major firing. We need the insight on Brian Kelly, dismissed yesterday in the fourth year of a 10-year contract at LSU after being dismantled by Texas A&M on Saturday night. Tigers have lost 2 straight, 3 out of 4. LSU may have to pay Kelly $54 million to not coach them through 2031. The buyout pieces are still being worked out, but the story remains Brian Kelly out at LSU. The man you want to hear from, of course, is Paul Finabium. You have the coach on your show every single Monday, so you obviously know him well. Do you believe this was the right move that they made yesterday in Baton Rouge?
Absolutely. Greeny, not only did they lose on the field, he lost in the locker room. I don't think he had anybody believing him anymore, and he certainly didn't have anybody in the stands believing him because they were all gone by the end of the game. But the most important person that didn't believe in him, interestingly, wasn't his boss, but it was the governor of the state of Louisiana, who managed to get in the middle of this because they have an interim president. They had a meeting yesterday. He decided, the group of them decided Kelly had to go. $54 million is a lot of money. Interestingly, Greeny, Scott Woodward, who hired Kelly, and allowed him to have that $54 million buyout, also hired Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, who got a $76 million buyout.
So he's about $120 million in arrears when it comes to hiring coaches, but that's a whole separate issue. All right, who do they circle? Who do they go after for what is certainly still one of the elite jobs in the country?
There's no doubt Lane Kiffin will be at the top of the list, and I know that sounds familiar. He's at the top of the Florida list and probably anybody else's list, but that's who he is, Greeny. He's a charismatic coach. He's colorful, and he's also an offensive genius, as we saw Saturday in Norman when Ole Miss beat Oklahoma in a mild upset. So will Kiffin leave is the question. His team has just about already stamped a playoff bid. That will be the question as we get closer to the end of the season.
Very quickly, because you know the dynamics so well, if he is offered both Florida and LSU and is willing to leave, which is the more desirable spot?
It's a close call, but in my mind, LSU is a better job. It just has a great infrastructure down there. As I say that, I realize that they fired the last 3 or 4 coaches. But I think Lane Kiffin fits that culture pretty well. He's familiar with it. He's also familiar with Florida, as we said last week. But I don't think there's any question that of the jobs opening, LSU is going to be the one that everybody wants.
You're the best. Paul, thank you so much for jumping in on a Monday morning. We run here. We've got so much still to come on the NFL, including...
We take a spin now down to Baton Rouge in the college game. Another week, another major coaching change in college football. LSU firing Brian Kelly last night. This following Saturday's home loss to third-ranked Texas A&M. LSU still negotiating, but could be paying Kelly upwards of $54 million to not coach the Tigers. Meanwhile, 4 games left in this season. Who will coach the Tigers? ESPN senior college football writer Pete Thamel has more on the search.
What's next for LSU? Well, they enter the most robust carousel likely in the history of college football. And they also enter direct competition with Florida for the top end of the coaching market in the southeast quadrant of the country. The first name on the lips of power brokers at both schools, obviously, is Lane Kiffin. If not, names like Jeff Brom at Louisville, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, and John Summerall down the road at Tulane are going to be in the forefront of this search for LSU.
It's Louisiana Saturday night, and that was Billy Napier's out. Brian Kelly lasted, a whole full week, 6 days longer than Billy Napier, and this is what Scott Woodward, the athletic director, said when Coach Kelly arrived at LSU 4 years ago. High hopes that he would lead us to multiple SEC and national championships during his time in Baton Rouge. So ultimately, the success of the level that LSU demands simply did not materialize. I made the decision to make a change after last night's game. He went on to say, we will continue to negotiate his separation and will work towards a path that is better for both parties. All right, we'll spend a lot of time giving A&M their rightful flowers as they
Let me say this, all right?
incorporated.
Let me start. We do tell the truth later in the third hour of the show. I'm going to tell the truth right now. Scott Woodward is a bad MFer, dude. That dude, he knows when to pull the trigger. Like, this dude does not mess around, and I respect the hell out of that. There's no, you have a friend sometimes where you go to a bar and a lot of people want to chatter back and forth and talk trash, and nobody ever does anything. And then there's one guy that just swings on you first. Like, Scott Woodward.
Are you saying Scott Woodward has the cauliflower ear? Like you don't want to mess with?
Yeah, he's the dude you don't want to mess with because he makes calls, the call to go out and hire Brian Kelly to begin with, swinging for the fences there. Jay Johnson, Kim Mulkey. This dude does not mess around when it comes to hiring, and he does not mess around when it comes to firing either, as he pulled the trigger. There was no talk, there was no lead up. This was just swing, and the dude hitting the ground in this case was Brian Kelly.
I do find it interesting. People are going to say, oh, Scott Woodward's got to go, and that's the athletic director right now. But
Why would Scott Woodward have to go?
Well, people are saying that because they're like, hey, well, he hired Jimbo Fisher, which led to the $75 million buyout over at A&M, but that's not necessarily the case. Simply with the fact that Ross Bjork gave him, Jimbo Fisher that huge extension that was unneeded, frankly, after the 2020 season. But regardless, they'll say, well, it was Jimbo Fisher's Brian Kelly. There's a lot of heat on Scott Woodward right now, the athletic director, because no matter how many hires you get right in college athletics, you have to get the college football coach right? I mean, I don't think there's a doubt in that. And Brian Kelly, and I thought BK was an interesting outside-of-the-box hire. You had a Hall of Fame coach, you had skins on the wall, and you thought, you know what, if that guy could do it at Notre Dame, now give him this playground, which is LSU football, which the last 3 coaches have won national championships. We expect that. The problem was that the wins never came, CD, and I talked about this as an LSU fan, and I've discussed this with you. Even the winning wasn't fun, okay? And especially the people of Louisiana, they work so damn hard, and this is their lifeblood. A lot of schools around the SEC, but they live 365 days a year for the 12 Saturdays a year. And even when they got those wins, CD, it never felt fulfilling. There was one fulfilling win. It was the Jayden Daniels going for 2, beating Alabama at home, and you're like, all right, here we are.
That was year 1 as well, right? That was his first
year 1. They got him to Atlanta that first season. But at the end of the day, there just wasn't that hunger, that passion that came from BK. And when it goes south, it went south quickly.
I think it's hard, too, to contrast having a Louisiana guy like you did with Coach O. And I know that the last couple seasons there with Coach O were not up to the expectation, both on and off the field. But having a guy that loved the state, that represented the state as well as Coach O did, and then going to a bit of an outsider. And I know people say it doesn't really matter as long as you win. Les Miles wasn't necessarily a Louisiana guy, but
Saban wasn't really.
But it never really felt like Brian Kelly was truly accepted by Louisiana, or vice versa, accepted the uniqueness of Louisiana on the flip side.
There's so much to dive into. I could do an hour on this thing. And the thing about Brian Kelly is that I always felt like Nick Saban loved LSU. And LSU fans loved him because they were building something. Even with Les Miles, he was that lovable guy in many different weird ways. Ed Ogeron personified Louisiana. I think Brian Kelly liked the idea of being the LSU coach. I've told you that for years, versus a person like Kirby Smart, who on March the 13th is looking at a punt coverage, formation and be like, we got to change this or else the world's ending. I don't think that there was that hunger, that passion from him. And I think that kind of went through the entire football